Hi guys, been trying to get out a video weekly, so this is this week's video, and it's on somatic healing. Somatic meaning body. And first I want to start off with a quote. As you guys know, I love quotes. We now understand that trauma's imprint is both psychological and somatic. Memories are stored somatically, relating to or affecting the body in the nervous system long after the events are over. The body continues to respond as if danger were ever present, and that's by Gianna Fisher. And I think all of us have experienced this, whether the traumas that we have gone through are big T trauma or little t trauma. You can't compare traumas and their importance and their significance and how our bodies process them. I think talk therapy is great. And our bodies are present for traumatic experiences, whether it's a car accident, whether it's a parent dying, whether it's a rape, whether it's abuse, the loss of a friend, witnessing a car accident. And that's kind of the distinction between big T trauma and little t traumas, is you can kind of parse through those and see what are kind of some big things and what are some little things, or little t traumas. So our bodies are present for these experiences, and I work primarily with kiddos whose trauma has happened previous to age 2. So their bodies are present for an experience, but the memories are not there. And so what's happening is, as I'm working with them after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is that they are having extreme behaviors and extreme reactions to things. Whether it's temperature change or new smells, or they've been placed in a new foster home and they're having these massive reactions, and people are like, why? I don't understand, they're safe. And it's, I take them back to the fact that their bodies were present for the trauma, and the trauma has to come out. It wasn't just their mind wasn't just present for the trauma, their whole body. So we're going to see whole bodily experiences and expressions of traumatic events. I have a friend who, she and her son were in a horrific car accident when he was super little. And now whenever there's a really extreme temperature change, and I think he's 11 at this point, he reacts very intensely. And she was like, I couldn't figure out why for the longest time, but then I realized the night of the car accident was a night that it snowed, a night that it was freezing, and it had gone from like decent weather to like the weather had changed super quickly. So his body is remembering those things, even though his mind isn't necessarily remembering those things. So things like that. So somatic therapy allows us to heal and self-regulate the body through these events. And I have a whole list of things that I'll go through, and if there's like in brief details, but if there's things that you want to know more about each of them, like I'm happy to share more. So drumming is huge. That helps to self-regulate and regulate our limbic system, kind of the cadence and the beats, and the predictability helps us to reset. So in the midst of maybe you're having a trigger moment, or you're feeling really anxious, or you're like about to go into a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and or you're feeling stressed, drumming is super helpful. So whether you buy a drum or you drum on your table or whatnot, or your steering wheel if you're driving, those things are really helpful, and they help to regulate the limbic system. When I'm working and doing horse therapy, oftentimes I will have people match their beat, their walking steps to the horse's walking steps, or I will have them put their hand underneath the horse's belly and like feel their heartbeat in the hand, and they can tap that heartbeat on them to kind of regulate. When you can't regulate yourself, you co-regulate. So co-regulating with the animal, where the horse helps them to kind of bring it down. Tapping, emotional freedom technique. This has been life-changing for me, and happy to go more into this. This works once again like with your limbic system, and for those of you that want to know more, I can do a separate video on this, but basically you tap on certain points of the body. So the top of the head, the eyebrow, the inner eyebrow, the outer eyebrow, under the eye, under the nose, under the chin, collarbone point, and then this point's kind of funky. It's under your arm, like ladies, where your bra strap or your bra meets your like underneath. and then karate chop point. And if all you can do is your karate chop point, then great. And what you do as you're tapping, so this gives your brain that serotonin that it's looking for when you're feeling anxious, that like calming response. So what you do as you're tapping is you're gonna talk through how you're feeling. Like, I'm feeling super anxious right now, and I'm feeling frustrated because I don't know, and I'm making this up, I don't know what's gonna happen with my job today. My boss was super angry, and I'm super angry at him because he hasn't been fair or kind. So you talk through how you're feeling, and you do a couple rounds of that. So you like tap through all the points as you do this. And I would say like a couple, maybe like 3 or 4 taps at each point, and you just kind of like go through the body as you do this, and you just talk out how you're feeling. Then once you feel like you've got it out and you've kind of gotten that anxiety level lower, then you're gonna say like, and maybe my boss has a reason to be frustrated with me. You know, I am not always on time for work. You know, I've been struggling with anxiety and depression, and you know what I mean? So then you kind of reframe all of those things. So there's more to that, but that'll get you started with the tapping. Grounding, I find this so helpful. Going outside and just being in the grass with your bare feet. For those individuals that maybe live in the city, you know, like you live in a concrete apartment, and like you're like cars parked in a parking garage, and then you walk on the sidewalks to work, and like the building you work in is once again like concrete, and there's no like real ground. Really finding a way to like get to a park, kick off your shoes, and just like, when you're grounding, let go of all negative energy in your body and just give it to the earth. I know it sounds super crazy, but it's amazing how powerful that is. Using your 5 senses, I find this super helpful when somebody is in the midst of a panic attack, like talking them through, like, notice how the couch is feeling underneath your bum. You know, does it feel like it's supporting you? Does it feel soft, or does it feel hard? Like, tell me what the smell is in the air. Can you smell the fresh cut grass that the lawnmower is mowing outside the window? Can you taste, you know, the lunch that you just had, you know, the ranch salad dressing? Because that aftertaste still in your mouth. So like really getting in tune with the senses, and that kind of shuts the brain off and really starts making shuts off the fight-flight response, and starts making you really start thinking about the things around you, and like regulates you and grounds you. So going through all 5 senses. What am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I feeling? And so on and so forth. Aromatherapy. So for those of us that may, as you know, smells, like you may smell a smell and that brings up a memory. Finding a smell that's super calming for you, whether it's a lavender oil or perfume or whatnot, and having that nearby for when you are feeling anxious, and just like really soaking in that smell. Objects, so weighted blankets, fuzzy blankets, if it's a fuzzy rug that you can go stand on, this is why kiddos generally have like a comfort item. It's something that regulates them and helps them to self-soothe. So those things are huge. Self-holding. So this can feel silly, but sometimes it's just what we need. Like giving ourselves a hug and just telling yourself what you need to hear from somebody else, and giving that to yourself, or holding your face, or like whatever you are needing, holding your own hand. So we call that self-holding. Dancing out whatever emotion you're feeling. So if you're feeling just extreme grief, dancing that out, or anger, stomping that out. And I do this with kids. Like I'll have them, like when I was working in the school system and like kids were getting super dysregulated in the classroom, we would go outside and dino stomp up and down the hallway, and then, oh wow, I feel better. Because these reactions and what we're feeling in our body has to get out. We can't just hold it in. So finding a way to get it out, dance it out. If you're feeling joyful, dance it out in a joyful way, but sing it out. Like singing is so good for our limbic system. Once again, like the Candace of like our tongue on the roof of our mouth, and like the humming and stuff like helps us to like re-regulate. So if you need to sing how you're feeling, and it's grumpy and it's angry and mad, like fine. Like if that's gonna keep you from screaming at somebody, awesome, you know. And breathing is huge. This immediately regulates that limbic system, and the limbic system is the part of our brain where all of our like emotions are. So as I've shared in multiple videos, I like the 4-4-8. So breathe in for 4, hold your breath for 4, and breathe out for 8. And doing this like 6 times before you respond. And sometimes it's really hard to catch ourselves, but I tell parents who are really struggling with their kids' behaviors, you need to regulate before your kiddos can regulate, because we don't grow up knowing how to regulate. We learn by seeing other people regulate, so we need that co-regulation, and then we can learn to regulate. So, having a super intense, like your kid's on the floor having a super intense meltdown, take a step back. Maybe you sit on the floor and you start doing your breathing, and I guarantee you they're gonna stop and be like, wait, what's going on? And then you can say, you're welcome to join me with the breathing, and start counting out loud and doing your breathing, and that's huge. So those are kind of all just like super generalized things, but super helpful. 2 books that I highly recommend are Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die, and The Body Keeps the Score. And those both kind of dive even deeper into what happens when you don't find a way to healthfully release trauma and process through trauma. And then Peter Levine is the name of the man who created or came up with the somatic method. So highly recommend checking him out. I hope this is helpful, and like I said, reach out if you want to know more about any one of those skill sets that I shared.